Alright, today's Friday, May 30th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, a lot of stuff to cover this week, but real quick, these two news stories came out mere hours after I posted last week's episode, so let's talk about that real quick. Sony has revealed that half the amount of PlayStation 4 owners actually have a PlayStation Plus subscription. So there's around 7 million PlayStation 4s, that's around 3.5 million PlayStation Plus subscriptions, which is a lot. Now, Sony's never actually detailed like exactly how many subscribers there are, or how much money the service makes. And that's not, it's certainly not a total number because there's also only PS3 users that have a subscription, only Vita users that have a subscription, but it's a good idea of just how many there are out there. Sony has also confirmed that PlayStation 4 hardware is now actually profitable. So before, it was confirmed by Sony themselves that the PlayStation 4 hardware was not profitable. They were selling the system at a loss, and in order to actually make profit off the system, someone would need to either buy a PlayStation Plus subscription or one PS4 game. And traditionally, we've said this a million times, console makers, hardware makers, they make most of their money back through software being video games. But Sony has already turned the PS4 into a profitable machine, which is in line with last week's topic where we talked about how Sony is registering new PS4 models, which are not like new, physical changes to the box, but more so internally changing the components and, making it more affordable to manufacture. And keeping all that in mind, Sony CEO Kaz Hirai also said, boldly claiming that he believes the PlayStation 4 will earn Sony more profit than the PlayStation 2. Keyword profit, not necessarily sell as many systems as the PlayStation 2, because the PS2 sold 150 million units, but he believes the PlayStation 4 will make more money than the PS2 did. And that's not entirely far-fetched to believe because, PS4 hardware is being profitable this early on, whereas PS2 took a loss on hardware for quite a number of years. Now, granted, PS2 sold a crap load of software, which is where you are going to make most of your money, but, different times. That was back in 2001, upwards to 2009, 10 when the system was still relevant. And, there's inflation to consider when you're talking about money, so I'm sure they're considering that as well. But overall, Sony's saying that PS4 is going to be making a lot of money. Moving on, let's talk about Agent. Do you remember this game? Back in Sony's press conference for E3 2009, they announced Agent, which is a Rockstar Games PlayStation 3 exclusive, but that was back in 2009, so, we're all wondering, where is this game? Last year, Rockstar extended the trademark for the game up until May 21st, and now they've actually extended it once again. We still don't know anything about the game, if it's even being developed. Rockstar won't comment on it, but the fact that they are extending the trademark means they still care about the name. They have some assets for the game built, probably. Who knows what they're actually doing with it, but at least this is really all we have to go on, is that they want to keep the name. So this week, it was also announced that the Order 1886 has officially been delayed into early 2015. The game was targeting a 14 release, but now, not anymore. There's a lot of new footage and screenshots coming out about the game, so clearly it's moving along, and Ready at Dawn does have some stuff to show, but as developers often say when they develop a game, they want more time, they want to make the experience right, and blah, 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 blah. Delays, are needed if the developer actually does need time. So if you follow EA on Twitter, then you probably spotted a couple of these interesting pictures they were tweeting this past week regarding Plants vs. Zombies and PlayStation symbolism, more or less. They tweeted a picture with Plants vs. Zombies, kind of morphed with Sly Cooper, Fat Princess, Ratchet and Clank, and it was, of course, just announced yesterday that Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare is coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. The game released just last February on 360 and Xbox One, and it was quite clear that the game was a timed exclusive. Microsoft often likes to do that, buy up some timed exclusivity for certain titles, and now the game is coming over to PS4 and PS3. You can expect it August 19th for North America, August 21st for Europe, and August 22nd for the UK, and the game will have 2 DLC packs bundled in, and it does look like they're, running with the idea that they were tweeting earlier, like kind of PlayStation stuff inside the game, some, bundled DLC. So in what is another obvious news story, and an obvious we saw this one coming, the Ratchet and Clank Trilogy is coming to PlayStation Vita. Now, I don't know how many weeks ago we talked about this, but there was a retailer listing for the game, so we more or less definitely saw this coming. Makes sense. We also got the Jak and Daxter collection, God of War collection, Sly collection. This one was certainly due, so you can expect it in July. So now let's move on to some juicy E3 rumors and news. One very interesting thing is that you can go to a movie theater to watch Sony's press conference. They've partnered up with around 40 to 50 theaters in North America, that's including Canada, and you can go and watch the press conference there, which is interesting. I will link you all to a post of where you can find like all the movie theaters and whatnot that you could possibly go to, but from what I'm hearing, a lot of them are already booked solid. But interesting. You can sit in a theater, get the full thing in HD. There's going to be 30 minutes of extra developer interviews and things like that. So, interesting. I didn't think they'd do that. That's actually pretty cool. All right, now let's get into some rumors. Industry insider Shinobi602, who we often talk about because he has been right in the past, knows a little bit about Guerilla Games' next game, which is apparently an RPG. Apparently, consider all of this a rumor, by the way, the game features a female protagonist. It has robotic dinosaurs in the game, open world, full-on role-playing game, and that we may or may not see a trailer at E3. So it does still sound very kind of, Guerilla Gamesy, I mean, like, it's sort of that sci-fi approach. Guerilla Games is within that genre, so I guess they certainly want to stay with what they know. But we'll have to wait and see if it shows up at Sony's press conference. Speaking of Sony's press conference, we're probably going to see this now that there was a little leak about it, but we probably were going to see it anyway without this leak. If you remember a while ago, we were talking about From Software's rumored game, Project Beast. Well, some footage got leaked on the internet just yesterday showing some footage of the game, and this is actually all those images that we talked about earlier, but now we're actually seeing the game in motion. This can't be fake at this point. This is certainly very convincing if it is fake, but more or less, most people are saying that this is one of Sony's heavy hitter, like Megaton announcements that they were saving for E3. And again, if you are not familiar, From Software, the developers behind Demon Souls, Dark Souls, this rumored project is supposed to be very much like a Demon Souls 2, but a PlayStation 4 exclusive. So maybe it'll be at E3. Probably will be. So this week it was confirmed by Sony that they will be releasing the PlayStation 4 in China. Now, China is a pretty big untapped market, especially since it had a 14-year console ban where you could not sell console hardware in China. So it's a very big market that Sony should definitely look into, and it looks like they actually are doing that. Sony will be partnering with a Shanghai cultural development agency to kind of help launch the system there and kind of work with, getting past certain restrictions and stipulations of the country. Software might more than likely be censored, when it gets released there. Again, very new market, very different market, so Sony's going to have to sidestep a few things when they do launch there. But there's a lot of money to be made there, certainly, so it was smart on their part to confirm that. And to bring this show to a little bit of a close, if you remember Jack Tretton, former Sony Computer Entertainment America president and CEO, who has now left Sony, well, he's actually going to be at Spike's All Access for E3. And it'll be interesting to see him there because he will finally be a neutral party where he will be able to talk about not only Sony in a criticism type manner, but he will also be discussing how Nintendo, EA, Ubisoft, and Microsoft do. Well, not Nintendo, because they're going to be doing directs, so he might not touch on them. But it'll be interesting to see Jack there kind of touch on everybody now that he's, again, neutral position. And for those wondering, it was announced a few weeks ago that Jack actually did find a new job, which didn't take him long. I mean, the guy has quite a pedigree. He's working at Ginatoire. I know I'm going to butcher that one and pronounce it wrong, but it's a company that does artificial intelligence development software and kind of building technology to license out to other companies, businesses, things like that. He's on the advisory board. Moving on to our last news story, which isn't exactly important, or I guess it's interesting, that's why I'm talking about it, but Drive Club developer Evolution Studios recently revealed that they almost leaked the PlayStation 4 upwards to 3 years ago. They were talking to some Scottish farmer, and they mentioned how they were making a game for PS4, and then when they kind of walked away from that situation, they were thinking, dude, we just told that guy we're making a PS4 game. This was 3 years ago, so PS4 was not even, wasn't announced. So they were like, uh-oh, hopefully that doesn't get on the internet, and it didn't because it was a Scottish farmer, and he was like, what the hell is a PS4? Probably. I would assume that's what he said. Anyway, that about does it for me on this episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. Probably this week I'll be uploading my review for the Sly Collection that just came out in America, so I finally got my hands on it to play it a little bit, so look out for that. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Rob Benecki. Thank you so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys all next Friday.